guys, welcome to the Dragon's Voice podcast, and it's been a very long journey. I hope you guys are at home safe and sound and everything, and football is slowly getting back there, and with my team on the verge of the Europa League, and also with the football clubs and in England, they're hoping for the best with the stadiums reopening sometime in October, but we're still here and I'm still trying to get Welsh football out there. And especially as well, speaking of Welsh football, we're going to move on from the Cardiff City players and the proper football league players, where we're going to talk about this particular person. I'm with Rhys Griffiths, the guy who scored so many goals in the Welsh Premier League, and I think he's one of the all-time, one of the members of the all-time 11 season of all-time Welsh Premier League. He's played for Llanelli, for Talbot, he's played for the Welsh Cymru Premier, he's played for Plymouth Argyle and Newport. Rhys, how's it going?
Good, thanks. Yeah, good. Thanks for having me on.
No worries at all. I'm actually glad that I got you on here because I spoke to Mark Lloyd-Williams, and he's probably the quote-unquote record goal scorer, but you're just not far from behind Mark. And I just want to know, what is your secrets to scoring a lot of goals and breaking a lot of records when you were playing in the Welsh Premier League?
I think it's different probably for every player. So Mark might have a different answer to me. But I think that people say there's a knack to scoring goals. I'm not so sure. I think it's something that can be taught, can be learnt. A lot of self-discovery for me, personally. It took me a long time to get going. But I think if you think about the game a lot, then you can find yourself in those spots to put the ball away. But I think over the years I've watched sort of Match of the Day, and John Terry's clearing the ball at the front post, and people are saying, "Oh, that's great defending." But if someone nicks in at the front post, they're in the right place at the right time, and I don't think you can have one without the other. So for me, it's something which, whether it's subconscious or not, it's something which can be taught.
And with that in mind, we're going to talk about bits and pieces of your career here and there and everything. But I really want to start off with Cwmbran town, because that's where you technically started, playing your career. And but at that time as well, you had Chris Summers, who was I spoke to him not long ago actually. And if Chris is watching this, we need to sort out another episode, because the last one it failed because of signal and everything. But I was talking to him. He was coming out of Cwmbran, but you were just starting your career with Cwmbran. What was that like for you to be joining a club where, you had Chris Summers, but then you had Tony Wilcox as well as the manager? But he was sort of, I think around about the time he passed away in the early 2000s or something like that. But what was that like for you personally?
Yeah, I became friendly with Richard Carter, who was the right back. Me and Rich are really close now, but we were sort of had just met around the 2000 time, and we started playing in a five-a-side team. Actually, Chris Summers played in that five-a-side team as well. We used to win about 20-0 every week. But and Richie said to me that Matty Davis had left the club. We'd gone to Barry full time, and that he said you should come to us. And to be honest with you, I didn't really think that I was going to be good enough. I'd known Richie's brother previously, and I'd always aspired to play what was the Comic League of Wales. But it was probably, to me, it was a bit of a pipe dream. I didn't think it was going to happen, but Richie convinced me that physically I was going to be more than capable, and that I should come along. So I remember the pre-season, they were actually putting me off coming a bit, and now I'm a manager, I can understand they were probably thinking, "Oh, we got another one coming along who thinks he can make the grade," kind of thing. But eventually I went along and I played the last 20 minutes of a friendly at Goitra United, Port Talbot way. And I did okay. And then Tony signed me a week later, yeah. And I think about 10 days from playing in a friendly for them, I started in the UEFA Cup for them.
In the UEFA Cup as well, and in Cwmbran. And what's it like to play in the Europa League or the UEFA Cup and everything? Because I know you did that with Llanelli, and we'll get on to that as well, because your time with Llanelli is absolutely phenomenal. And I mean, you just came out of the curtains and went, right, I'm here, I'm going to take over. And take over you did, in breaking records and that. But what was that like playing in, the UEFA Cup and the Europa League in those competitions?
That game for Cwmbran was a tough experience. I wasn't good enough, in all honesty, to play Welsh Prem at the time, not to hold down a position. I had some raw ability, certainly physically, but I was raw as the word, and I didn't really know what I was doing. And then to play in the UEFA Cup, it was just over my head. I got taken off at half time. Dean Philpott, who I haven't seen for years actually, he got sent off after about 10 minutes, which was not unlike Dean. And that meant we were down to 10 men in the UEFA Cup against Slovan Bratislava. And I got sacrificed quite rightly at half time just to try and keep us in the tie. I think we lost 4-0. And then over there, we lost 1-0, which was a really good performance. But yeah, varying experiences really. That, like I said, that was really tough. I hardly touched the ball. When I did, it didn't go where I wanted it to. And then other games like Motherwell, I played really well away up there. Yeffley, Sweden, I played really well. Scored a hat trick against one team from Lithuania. I always get the names mixed up, so I won't say who it was. Ben Spills, I think it was. So yeah, I've had some success in European competition, but also I've had some tough days where you're struggling to touch the ball.
With with a lot of fans who are not a fan of, let me say this correctly. A lot of football fans who don't necessarily support Welsh League football, the likes of Barry, Penybont, those kind of clubs and everything. It's sort of, if you're not in that environment where people don't realise how much Europa League or European football is vital for these Welsh clubs. A lot of people seem to be talking down to it. How would you respond to that kind of criticism? With people saying, how come it's not for, how can I say it? It's like Merthyr Town supporters. No disrespect to them. I want to try and keep this no bias or anything. But it's like Merthyr fans, where their current situation is that they want to keep succeeding in the FA Cups or that English League Cup. But then when Welsh League fans are trying to say to them, try and get Europa League money or try to get the European competition, they trying to brush it off and say, no, it's not. How would you respond to that when someone says something, similar in that category?
The first thing to say is that and I forget the actual term, but the points accumulated by Welsh clubs in Europe is massive for the national team. In terms of ranking for the Welsh national team, if TNS, Connors Key this year do well in the Champions League, it all adds to the points that the Welsh national team have, and which adds to their ranking. So you literally cannot have a national team without a national league. That's a rule for UEFA. So that in itself, if you're a Welsh football fan, you cannot be a Welsh football fan and not be a fan of the Welsh Premier League, because you can't have one or the other. That's the first thing. In terms of like the actual level, people are very naive if they think that it's a poor level. I would actually say now you still get that blood and thunder and that you used to get in the Football League. You still get a bit of that. It's still quite a physical league, but at the same time, you do get the football now, and obviously with the 3G pitches, etc. And just players in general are so technically good these days that I think, in my opinion, as a spectator sport, in some ways, you get the full package with the Welsh Prem that you don't perhaps get at the top level now, because as much as we all love, and I do, watching the art that is the English Premier League at times, we all get frustrated when they dive in, when the game's getting stopped for next to nothing. You don't get that so much in the Welsh Premier League. So I get that there's great experiences to be had in the FA Cup, and if you can climb the leagues for the likes of Merthyr, that's amazing for them. But the way it's evolved and the reasoning is for the national team. The support you get from the FAW now in the Welsh Premier League in terms of funding is huge. And those European experiences can be massive. Now, again, I'm not au fait with Merthyr's history as such, but Merthyr probably, if you could name a great day they've had in the FA Cup, is it going to be better than TNS against Liverpool? I'm not so sure. TNS against Man City, Cwmbran against Celtic. These are massive experiences. So what I'm saying is there's great experiences to be had in all the leagues. Personally, now I think a team like Merthyr should be looking to go into the Welsh Premier.
Yeah, I completely agree. And it's like a lot of people who expressed their opinions on Merthyr's situation. And like I said, I don't want to keep, I mentioned this a lot of times in my previous episodes where I don't want to keep mentioning or talk down about Merthyr, because at the end of the day, I kind of learned now is let them do their own thing, because it's going to, whatever happens, what goes around comes around, whether it's for good or bad. But it's like, I've had so many conversations with friends who support Merthyr, and it's more like my way of approaching is, there is a deep concern for Merthyr because of the situations they've had in terms of finance or players just leaving left, right, and centre, and they're insisting. They're like the Black Knight in the Monty Python film, where one arm comes off and it's like, oh, it's just a flesh wound. But the more limbs come off, it's just that, well, it's going to get worse, for Merthyr.
Now, Merthyr are a great club, and every time I've been up there to play or watch, I go up there sometimes to watch them, particularly since I've been a manager. They're a great club, they're well supported, and I can understand, because of their history, why they want to stay in it, and I don't know probably enough about the club to hold a solid opinion.
Yeah.
But I just feel like they'd be a great addition to the Welsh Prem. The funding they would get for their academy is huge, and also, a club of Merthyr's side should be looking within a few years to qualify for Europe, and that would help sustain them. And the other thing is as well, the exposure you get in the Welsh Prem now, social media, I wish it was around in my day like it is now, is massive. And obviously we got TV coverage every week. So, we got some players playing for me, Kano and Nathan Wood scored some good goals last year. And everybody has seen those goals because they're on Scorio, and then it just goes viral on social media. It doesn't happen, as far as I'm aware, so much in the Southern Leagues.
Yeah. Let's go on to that coverage then, because I want to talk about more about Llanelli, your time with the club, because you've had 6 brilliant years. I have to be completely honest. I looked into the history, even when you were still playing for, club football and that, whether you were playing for Plymouth or Llanelli, whatever, and just to have a look at your records and everything, I thought, my God, what a player! What is he doing here? You should be, go into other leagues that probably want you, and then get that, experience further indeed. And I want to talk about this one particular trial you had. It was for a Swiss team. I can't pronounce the name. It's like a row or Oro or some. What? So how did that occur then? Because that team is, I mean, from what I've seen, experienced, seen themselves, that's a big club to have a trial with. So what was going on?
Yeah, what happened was they needed a forward, a goal scorer, and what they did is they literally went into the European Golden Boot table, and they went to the top. And I think Cristiano Ronaldo was top. And they were like, we can't afford him. And then Adebayor second. Arsenal don't want to let him go. And then wherever I was, they were like, who's that guy? So then they sent someone over to watch me, and we beat Port Talbot 8-0 or 8-1, and I scored a few. And so they let us get him over for a look. So I went over there, and I played there for a week. It was an amazing experience, amazing country for starters, so clean, and Switzerland. Everyone was really friendly, which it taught me a lesson, because we're not friendly to trialists in this country. And to start with, in the training, I found it hard. It was very quick, and I found it hard, but I quickly adapted. Played a friendly game and scored. I scored a few in the game. I think I scored 4 in the game. And then I met the president he had a massive ranch, and we met for breakfast. So just for me, it was a culture shock to be meeting anyone for breakfast. But that was the way they did it over there. And he said they wanted to sign me, and that was it. And then I never heard anything again. So no news is good news. So I'm hoping the phone's still going to ring. But I think reading between the lines, I don't know whether there was going to be I was under contract, whether there's going to be a hefty fee or what, I don't know. That year, we won the Welsh Prem, won the League Cup, runner-up in the Premier Cup and the Welsh Cup. So the prize money was probably about £500,000. And so, and I scored 58 that year. in all competitions. So Llanelli were well within their rights to not let me go, because it's not a joke. This is serious, the Welsh Premier. And whatever happened, maybe they changed their mind. Maybe I left after breakfast and I had too many croissants or something, and they said I don't take him. I don't know. But to be honest with you, I hadn't long joined the fire service, probably 2-3 years. I was loving life at Llanelli, and I probably wasn't that determined to make the move anyway. So after about 3-4 weeks of the trial, I signed like a 2 or 3 year contract at Llanelli to stay. With
Llanelli, I mean, some of the players that were coming in and some of the management, you had your Andy Legg, Peter Nicholas, Steve Jenkins. I think he came sort of later on. I spoke to him not long ago, actually. Brilliant guy. Some finest players, and for Llanelli, I think, around about the time Barry were no more, they didn't exist in the Welsh Premier League standards. They were, because of all the financial troubles. So someone had to fill that gap. And of course, I know TNS were the next big thing, but then it was Llanelli, Brill and Bangor. They were fighting for that opportunity to succeed in the Welsh Premier League and become the face of that league. For you at Llanelli, was there a sense of proper competition than what it is now? Because, well, not now because Connors Key won the title, but I mean, because TNS were winning constantly. But do you think that there was proper competition while you were playing for Llanelli in that league?
Yeah, I think last year, Andy Morrison at Connors Key would probably be a better person to ask. But last year, I think, was the first year where, for a while, someone's thought we can challenge TNS here. And they obviously proved that to be the case, and they went on and won the league. But every year we expected to win the league. We only won it once, which was a travesty, really. But whereas I would imagine in recent years, everybody has been like, well, let's go for second. We'll see if we can finish second this year. Maybe that's harsh, but that's just from the outside, because I haven't been in the Welsh Premier for a few years. That's the way it's looked to me. Until now, Connors Key look like worthy rivals, and I'd imagine they'll go head to head again this year. But we really fancied it every year, and we should have won it more.
With what was Peter Nicholas like to work with? I've spoken to a few former Barry Town players, or some people who are still with the club, and they said he was brilliant to work with. But for you, for a Llanelli perspective, what was he like as a manager there?
I loved him, and I don't keep in touch with him. The last time I saw him, I bumped into him when we were watching Wales, Slovakia and Euros in France, in Bordeaux. I was about 8 seats down from him. But I loved him. He's a lovable rogue. But he was a great manager. He's one of the best I've seen at half-time and prior to games. Just at Edinburgh was also very good, but Nico I thought was great. Like, we played Yeffley in the UEFA Cup. We 1-0 down at half-time, and we were doing okay, but deserved to be 1-0 down probably. But I came in thinking, oh great, we're not getting thrashed. And he wasn't accepting it. It wasn't good enough. We should have been beating this team. We weren't playing at the level we should have been playing at. And he made that clear, and we went out and we beat him 2-1. And so half-time, full-time, I thought he was brilliant prior to the games. And he was great for me. And I think that's the key is he trusted me. He made it very clear very quickly that he rated me. I know he signed me, obviously, so he'd say he rated me, but I think he signed my record at Port Talbot as much as anything. He watched me, I would imagine, a few times, but I doubt it's not like now where you get tapes of people. So he signed me, and then very quickly made it clear that, he rated me and he was happy with the sign, and then that's all I needed, really. If you showed confidence in me, then I grew, and I loved working for him. And I was disappointed when he went, and I'm disappointed that we don't really keep in touch, but I don't think he's the type to keep in touch, probably. No.
Is he the type of person, would you say, that he doesn't dwell on the past, he looks to the future? Is he that type of player, that type of person, would you say? Or is it just it is what it is kind of moment, really?
Yeah, I think I think he's just one of those people probably that when you were injured, he would speak to you.
Yeah. Oh.
And I remember saying one day, like, I think I may have had a little niggle or something, bearing in mind I've just scored 40 goals in 30 games for him or whatever. And I've gone, you said hello to me today, and he said, you're injured. You're no good to me at the moment.
Oh.
And I think at the moment, probably the truth of it is, I'm not his player anymore, so we don't keep in touch.
No.
But that sounds harsher than it is. That's the reality of professional football. And it was what it ducks back to me. And I'm not like that, I don't think, as a manager, but there are players out there who get in the comfort zone when they're injured, and the reason he did that was because he didn't want anyone to feel comfortable being injured. So there was method to the madness. But like I say, he's a lovable rogue, and I love him, and I love him well, and I got a lot to thank him for, because he took me to Llanelli, and that's made a massive difference to my life. So,
what about Andy Legg as a manager?
Yeah, Leggy inherited then me and the squad at Llanelli. He brought Steve Jenkins with him, which was very shrewd, because Steve's a great football man. We won the Welsh Cup together, which was something which I'd feel very different being sat here now if I'd never won the Welsh Cup. But I think for me personally, I didn't need managing at that point. So I'm not going to say anything bad about Leggy as a manager, but I didn't really need anything at that stage. When he took over, I would have been probably 30, maybe 29, and established, and my game was set in stone. I wasn't going to change, and I kind of took care of myself. So, but I enjoyed my time. I enjoyed all my 6 years there, Nico and Leggy, and I left at the right time as well.
With that in mind as well, with Llanelli, I want to mention the Welsh Premier League. When you won it, was there a pinch me, I must be dreaming moment, because you had TNS who won it 3 seasons in a row, and because you and the squad pushed for it to get that title at Llanelli, what was that like for you, and how did you feel along with the squad when you won the title?
No, it wasn't a pinch me. It was what we should have done last year. And I think the mentality of players in any league, the mentality now of your Liverpool, your Man City, will be, we have to win it next year, and if we don't, it's disappointment. And it was the same for us, and it was the same for TNS, I'd imagine, when they didn't win it. And the year before, at Christmas time, we were I can't say exactly, but we'd beaten TNS away. And we were a couple of points clear with a game in hand or something, and all thinking this is, we'll do it this year, fine. And then we went to Bangor and lost. Went somewhere, I think we lost to Port Talbot on Boxing Day straight after. Next thing you know, we're 3 points behind with a game in hand or whatever, and then we didn't win the league. We should have won the year before. And so it was more than anything, it was just kind of relief. It was just our time, and we knew it, and we had to win it. We had to win it.
With the Welsh Cup, then, because you played against Bangor City at was it Leighton Park when you won it? Because normally they have the one.
Parc y Scarlets.
Parc y Scarlets. Also, it's close to home anyway, so it kind of been poetic to win the Welsh Cup. But when you play, I think that was it. I think it was in 2007 or 8. It was where the Welsh Cup. It was the final at Leighton Park. And I remember watching that on Scorio, and of course you guys lost and everything. But bit of a crowd trouble, though, I must say. There was a bit of a. I mean, I didn't expect that to be in a Welsh Premier League standard of football.
Bangor were good at that.
Oh.
I love playing up there, and they always gave me a lot of stick. But yeah, it was for the wrong player, it would have been an intimidating place to go, and they'd filled. We'd won the league. We Premier Cup, like I said, we'd won the League Cup the week before. They weren't title contenders from what I can remember. So we were clear favourites in the cup final. And they had 10 men for a lot of the game as well. Probably first 20 minutes they had a man sent off. And we were 1-0 down for a long time, and then we scored. I scored on the hour, which was given as an own goal, but I'm adamant it was mine. And then I got another one then with a few minutes to go, probably 85 minutes or something, which was a really good goal actually. And then obviously on the 90, they got an equaliser. And I knew, I had a good feeling then that we were going to lose this because we were out on our feet. We played so many games because of the success we've had. And I was looking around and we were just out on our feet. And to be fair to them, the crowd got behind them and the momentum swung completely. And in an extra time, they battered us. And I think we lost 4-2. I got sent off in the end. Yeah.
But when you won the Welsh Cup against Bangor a couple of seasons later, that must have felt good then to, you know, what goes around comes around, and just lift up the Welsh Cup trophy and say, yes. Especially at Llanelli as well, where no matter if it was at Stevenage Park or Park of Scarlets as well.
Yeah, well, Bangor then, so that was 2008 we lost. And then they won it every year until we played them again until 2011.
Yeah.
So they were going for, I think, their 4th in a row. They won the league that year. So now, all of a sudden, they are title contenders and they've won the league. And we played them with a few games left to go in the league. And we beat them, I think, 5-2 at their place. And I had a bit of an argument with their manager, Neville Powell, who I get on with great now. But there was a bit of a fracas near the dugouts, and he said something to me. And TNS had just gone ahead of them in the league because we were hammering them that day. And I turned to him and I said, "You've blown it, Nev." And he bit big time. I said, "What are you talking about?" And I said, "The league, you've blown it, mate." And it was, honestly, it was like a red rag to a bull. And then we've beaten them 5-2. And then, to be fair to them, they didn't blow it because they came back and they beat TNS. I don't know whether it was the last day, it may have been, and they won the league. But then by the time we played them in the cup final, all that Neville's talking about in the change room is that up front for them, saying, "No, we've blown it, show him, show him." So there was a lot of tension between us at the time. But they were better than us that year. They won the league and we didn't. And it was another case of that year I felt that we should have done better, and we lost to Neath twice at Christmas and blew it. But by the time we played them in the cup final, I knew we had their number. So we weren't perhaps across the season as good as them, but head to head, I always felt we beat them that year, and we had their number, and we beat them 5-2 in the league, as I say, about a month before, and then we beat them 4-1 in the cup final then, and I got a couple of goals as well, which was great for me.
With Llanelli and Bangor, did you feel that there was a sense of, you know, rivalry? It's like with me, because, you know, I'm a Barry Town supporter, and I always sense that we don't know. Oh, you do know that?
I'll shut my computer down.
Hey, no, I'll be honest with you now, and we did a last episode of Yell and Blarney radio show on this local radio station, Bro Radio, and we were talking about other teams, so like Penybont and everything, and someone, one of my producers who was sort of co-hosting it with me, and another person said, "Oh, who do you think has been the most improved team?" I didn't say Connors Key, I didn't say Kevin Druitt or any other. I said Penybont, because they came in because of you, and, you know, and you brought in a different system, a different meaning to what the league could be about, and the way you and the squad handle it. We didn't think, oh, we're gonna brush Penybont. We took you very seriously, and I think you brought a whole new meaning of, yes, we don't have to travel 3 or 4 hours to North Wales. We could just get on a train and I said it was just a big improvement and a big weight off our shoulders to say, yes, with Penybont coming in, it was absolutely fantastic, you know. And I think most of us have got a soft spot for Penybont anyway. So stay. But did you feel like there was like with Barry and Carnarvon, there's always a big rivalry between the two because of sort of the same level of playing, you know, and the fans and the following. Was Llanelli and Bangor sort of the same, or was there a competitiveness between the two?
Yeah, like I loved playing them, and I kind of hated them, and I had that with them, but I had that with a lot of teams. It was part of my makeup as a player. And I just wanted to fight everybody and argue with everyone, and it spurred me on. If I started having a chit chat with a player on the pitch, which very, very rarely happened, but if I did, I wouldn't have played well that day. I needed that, and we had it with Bangor. I don't know whether everyone had it with Bangor, because like I said, they're that type of club where their fans get behind them and everything, and they create that hostility. But I certainly felt it with them. But then I felt it with a lot of clubs, like I say. And when you're at the top as well, everyone wants to beat you. So we probably had that with a lot of teams now.
After your time at Llanelli, 6 years with Llanelli, was you very optimistic to go to another club, or was you a bit upset that you wanted to stay longer with Llanelli?
No, I think I knew my time was up there. The truth of it is, they didn't offer me anything to stay. So there was talk of cuts, and you're not going to be able to get the same wages, etc. But it was never an offer. So there was I could never judge the merits of those cuts, because I didn't. So that's why I left, and I knew I was going when we beat Bala in the playoff final to get into Europe. So that was a kind of a sad day in a way, but it was the right time for me to go. I signed for Port Talbot quite quickly, but I asked for a clause: if not a full-time team, but if an English league club comes in for me, I can go. And the chairman at the time said, "No one's going to take you at your age, of course you can." And they were his words. But I had a good idea that I'd been under contract for so long at Llanelli that there would have been anyone worth their salt, even if I was nowhere near good enough, they would have looked at my record and had a look at me. And I had a good idea that clubs would have seen me leaving Llanelli, and they would have at least had a look. So I put the clause in, and like you say, Plymouth came in, and so I left Port Talbot. I played a couple of friendlies, and I was gone again. So, I felt bad leaving Port Talbot probably more than I did Llanelli, because I felt like I let them down a little bit. But it was naive from the chairman at the time, wasn't it? So,
when you played for Plymouth, then you were in your early 30s. You put a halt to your firefighting services, for a bit, because you're going to be playing professionally. What was your time like at Plymouth? Because a lot of people were behind you as well, believe it or not. There was a lot of, for us at Barry as well, some of my mates, we were all rooting for you, because, you were the type of player that deserved to push yourself and get to that next level.
Yeah, I think I didn't go, and like I said this the other day in a podcast, that if I'd gone earlier, I wouldn't have the status or the records that I've got. You talked about Mark Lloyd-Williams' goal-scoring record. Well, I got a few, and I'm proud of them. And if I'd gone earlier somewhere, then I wouldn't have had those things. So I can't have one without the other, and I'm proud of what I've got from the Welsh Prem. But I went at 32, and I did well to start with. I did well in the friendlies. I did well in training. I was different to what they had. I was like a bit more aggressive than anyone they had. But unfortunately, I tore my calf on the. What happened was we played against Truro in a friendly, and I scored a goal where the right back's clipped it over the centre half's head, and I chested it and volleyed it in. It wasn't as good as it sounds, but we trained then before the first game, which was against Portsmouth at home, and I was named in the team. I was named as penalty taker, and I was wearing number 10. So I was obviously, the manager liked me. And after the training session, I said to the assistant manager, "Can I do some finishing?" And he said, "No, get in." And I said, "Come on, just a few finishes." I was buzzing to be. I didn't want to go in.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what, we'll recreate that goal against Truro City, and we'll do 8. So he clipped 8 balls over the top to me, and I chested them and volleyed them in or not. And then the 8th one, I tore my calf. Ooh. And I turned to him and I said, "I just tore my calf." And he laughed and said, go and get a rub." And I said, I won't be able to walk in. It was about 500-yard walk from the training ground to the changing rooms at Plymouth. I can't get in. Like, it's gone. I just couldn't believe it. And it never really, it healed, but then my fitness was way off. My confidence was knocked for the first time in forever. So I didn't really recover. I had some decent performances, but unfortunately I was never fit. And so it didn't go the way it could have. But I loved my time there. Great club. For someone to experience football, League Two, you can't ask for a better club than Plymouth. You know, you can go. I'm not going to name names, but you can go to kind of some clubs that are in, you know, League Two conference. Plymouth are a proper club, getting 10,000 every week. I still go places now and people recognise me. You don't get that playing for other clubs at League Two level. So proud to have played for them, and just I probably shouldn't have left, to be honest, when I did.
Was it by mutual consent? Was it that you left, or because was it John Sheridan took over as manager, or he was manager at Plymouth at the time you left? Well, how did that happen then when you left Plymouth? What was the story?
So Carl Fletcher got the sack away at Bristol Rovers, who were bottom and we just lost. And John Sheridan came in and he pulled me. We played a reserve game, and I scored 2 in the game, and I scored 1 really good goal as well, which was rare for me. So I was thinking, oh, you know, he's seen that now. And again, to repeat myself, I was the only one there who I felt was aggressive in the air. I didn't miss much in the air and that kind of thing. So I was a bit different to what they had, I felt. But he called me in a referee's changing room. There was a dirty boots in the corner, and he just sat me down and he went, oh, so-and-so want you. Thingy, you know, and I was like, who's Thingy? And he said, oh, Paul Talbot want you to go back. And I said, well, I'm under contract, I'm not going back. And he goes, well, I don't want you. And I said, well, okay, but I'm different to what you've got. Maybe you'll, as a sub later on, and then I'll prove myself. And he went, no, I don't want that. So he said, you can stay, but you're not going to play much. And once a manager says that to you, I could have stuck it out, and maybe it could have turned, because it does. But once someone says that to me, I can't have that. And I couldn't be in the same room as him, to be honest, at the time. And, you know, it's water under a bridge now. And if I see him, he probably wouldn't even recognise me. But if I saw him, I'd say hello. But at the time, I wanted to take his head off, if I'm honest. I didn't think he dealt with it that well.
Newport County came knocking. Justin Edinburgh, may he rest in peace, bless his heart. And but when you went to Newport, and this was around about the time they were pushing for promotion, which they did, what was that like for you at your time with Newport?
Yeah, it fell into my lap. So that's another reason why maybe I agreed to leave Plymouth, because as soon as I was sort of placed on the transfer list, Justin rang me. Another occasion in my career where I've been a bit, for want of a better phrase, starstruck, having watched him for years. And it was very easy. You know, the wages straight away, it was fine. I wasn't going to demand, you know, I wasn't about money for me as such. So we agreed very quickly. I went in. I actually tore my calf getting fit. I was at Plymouth, but knew when I was going. So I was getting fit to go to Newport at Plymouth, and I tore my calf again. So I had to hide that a little bit for the first week or so. And then I was like into training, and I was kind of on eggshells, thinking, oh, please don't go again. It was a very poisonous changing room. And when I say that, I mean it in a good way. The banter was relentless. You couldn't turn your back. If you thought you could turn your back and they wouldn't be giving you stick, you were naive. For the first week, I thought, I'm gonna fall out with someone here. But then I kind of like a chameleon, I guess. I just adapted, and I loved it. And I absolutely loved my time there. I loved the stick they gave me, and I loved giving them all stick. And it was just constant. The most poisonous changing room I'd ever been involved in, but in a good way. And that's what that's what led them to the success they had. And Justin created that in many ways. So yeah, I loved it. Unfortunately, I didn't have injuries in my early part of my career, and I'm thankful for that. But at this stage, I'm starting to get injuries all the time, and I had a hernia. Again, felt it at Plymouth as I was leaving, thought it was just a stomach strain. I was always in the gym, and I thought I just overdone it one day. It turned out it was a hernia. So I only played one game for them when I wasn't in pain, which was Macclesfield at home, which we won 4-1, and I'd had an injection to kill the pain. Just went to a friend, like a GP, and just said, help me out, get me through this. So that was a shame. I couldn't perform for them, and I didn't perform for them. And they didn't see the best of me apart from maybe that one game. Again, he was great half-time, full-time, before the game. Around the 90 minutes, he was brilliant, Justin was. So intense, got his messages across clearly. No one would argue with him, which is important as well. But I felt like he let me down again when I left. And it was a shame because I held a grudge, and before I had a chance to sort of make it up with him, he passed, which I was devastated to hear, to be honest.
It must have been, yeah, like you said, devastating, because I mean, I met Justin a few times when he was as a spectator coming and watching Cardiff, or I see him a few times at Newport, you know, and just a lovely bloke, just absolutely lovely to have met him and everything. But what was he just like, not just as a manager, but as a person, just in Edinburgh? What was he like?
He was infectious, great company, always laughing. He had, you know, you see the viral videos of him since he passed. And be careful not to get upset, but the smile, he just lit a room up with his smile. And like I say, he was constantly giving people stick and accepting it back. And it created this environment where it was just relentless banter. And I don't know, it's so hard to explain, but he just created an environment that led to success. And it's no shock that he went on and had success in several places. You know, I think any manager can have success once, but to do it at several clubs or for a prolonged period proves your methods. And I think he was a very good manager. It was just unfortunate that I didn't feel he handled me leaving properly, and I didn't feel like he managed me leaving properly, and I was unhappy with him about it, and I told him as well. And I held a grudge for a long time, and also the last time I saw him, I ignored him, which you know, when I found out that he had passed. So don't get me wrong, I didn't know him as well as some of the boys there, like Michael Flynn and Aaron O'Connor and people. They were very close to him, but I just regretted them when I looked back and I thought, it's football. And like I said about Peter Nicholas earlier on, in the full-time game, it is cutthroat. So yeah, he didn't handle it that well, but it wasn't personal, and I certainly shouldn't have held a grudge. And life's too short, and then he was gone.
After your time at Newport County, you went back to Talbot. Talbot, for me, it's very close to my heart because of the guys, the supporters. You know, that when Talbot supported us during the time, for Barry, that is, for that court case and everything, and they were always very outspoken, saying, no, that these are our brothers, we need to stand by them, and especially for the fans. But what was it like to come back to Talbot, and did you feel a bit uncomfortable? It's like, hang on a minute, I only had a couple of friendlies. Are they going to like me? Or what's going to happen? What was your experience when you went back?
I think when the first time around I was there, the fans were equally brilliant at the time. Well, more so perhaps. Risk and Onslaught there. They were brilliant. A guy called Nigel Hunt. They used to do this website called, I think it's called Blue Skin Beast or something like that. And they'd interview me all the time because I was scoring every week. They hadn't really had that in their history with a player who was getting a lot of limelight. So and it was great. And I left there I left like them, like I've left friends behind there when I went to Llanelli, and I had to go when I left. Then over my time with Llanelli, it soured a little bit. We were rivals. Llanelli were rivals with Port Talbot a little bit. There was a few occasions I was accused of kissing the badge once. I didn't kiss the badge. I went like that. But yeah, they were giving me stick in a game, and then we scored, and I went like that. So I felt like when I went back, and then of course I'm there for a couple of weeks, and I leave to go to Plymouth, and then I come back again. And it wasn't the same the second time round. And perhaps the fans that you love, that you know, they didn't recognise my history with the club, and I didn't feel like they always gave me the props I was due. At times, like I remember one occasion when they were giving me stick from the stand, and I was thinking, you know, what you're doing, like, you know, I'm playing for you. I've scored a lot of goals for you. I scored a 7 against your nearest rivals, and they're shouting stuff like you're too old. Someone shouted you're too old or something. But again, it's football, and it's water under a bridge. But I think the second time around, the club was a mess. You know, it's like, and it's no surprise they are where they are now. I really wish them well. I know that the people running the club aren't the same people now. So hopefully now they can build, and you know, and I fully support that, because I really want them to get back. But the people running the club at the time, they just didn't have the club's best interests at heart, and it just wasn't a good place to be honest with you. So it was very difficult.
When you went to Aberystwyth, and this is around about the time where your career was starting to sort of end as a footballer and going into management at Penybont, which I'll get onto in a minute. But your time at Aberystwyth, I've not got anything apart from having a nice ground. There's one or two people that were nice, but every time I've experienced as a supporter going to Aberystwyth, I remember once where because there was only, you had the middle stand, the big one, and because we had the drum and everything, and we were singing, chanting, banging away and everything. And I remember there was this elderly fan that just came up to me. Turned out I think he was the chairman at that time, but he came up and he went to me, "You're going to bang that drum then?" and everything. And that club tried everything to not let us have all our drums, all our flags. You know, they were trying so hard to not let it into the game. And he said, "Oh well," he said, "you shouldn't be having that." I said, "Well, I respectfully refuse. So I'm going to keep drumming away." And then next, he called me a miserable "see you next Tuesday." I was thinking, I'm happy. I don't know what you're talking about. But some of the memories I've had of Aberystwyth as a supporter is not being brilliant. But for you as a player, when you went to Aberystwyth, what was your time there like?
Yeah, I enjoyed it. You know, again, it wasn't a great time to be there at the time, in terms of like, I just felt like the club was in a bit of a transition period. We had a Llanelli contingent there. They were great. They're great lads, still good friends of mine now. And probably the club felt that the reason they were struggling is because of that Llanelli contingent, because we struggled that year. In my view, it was the only reason they didn't get relegated that year. And I don't say I had some moments, but it wasn't me. I was injured a lot. But the other boys, the Stuart Joneses, your Lee Sermons, Chris Venables, obviously, Antonio Corbisiero, I thought they held the club together at times. But I enjoyed my time there. As far as I'm concerned, it's a good club. Always enjoy going up there and playing, decent atmosphere and stuff. You always get one or two grumps, don't you, wherever you go. Yeah. The nature of Welsh Prem stands is you can't get away from each other. So, because there's not so many seats, so perhaps they would have gone and sat in Rosette if they were at Old Trafford or something. But no, a good club, and again, they seem now to be on a bit of a better direction than they were at the time I went there. And it was a transition period for the club. I did my best for them. In fact, I did it over and above at times, which is, you know, I know things that perhaps I won't go into, but I was just injured a lot. I tore my calf in pre-season, and then I had like what they call a hamstring tendinopathy, where I could play with it, but I didn't know for about 3 weeks what it was, and I thought my hamstring was going to come off the bone every time I ran. It turned out that it was tendonitis in my hamstring, and I just played with it the rest of the season. But I had 11 stitches in my face, took a knee to the face and stuff, and then I carried on playing in the same game and things. So I gave my all for the club. It was just a shame that, like I said, we weren't. It was a transition period. Let's put it that way.
Well, let's get on to Penybont then. Manager, you got him to the Welsh Premier League. An experienced Welsh Premier League player like yourself. How did that transition from being a player to a manager come about, and how did that transaction from you going to Penybont to be the manager happened? I
was doing commentary for Scorio a bit. I probably did about 4 or 5 games for them, and we were like Mark Jones, who everyone knows. Me and him were travelling to a game together, and he said, "Are you going to stay at Aber?" And I said, "No, I won't be staying." He said, "Well, where are you looking to move to? In terms of playing?" He was talking, and I just said, "I'm not going to play now." I didn't want to just chase Mark Lloyd Williams' record. That's the only interest I had in playing at that point. And I just thought, I'm just going to be every week just hoping I nick a goal, and I just didn't want that. When I went to Plymouth, I almost accepted that record was going to go, which is fine. Can't win them all. And so I said, I'm not going to. And he said, what do you want to do? And I said, well, I've done my A licence and passed it at that point. But I said, yeah, I'll be looking for a club Welsh League. And I said, actually, one club I've always thought should do better than they do is, I call them Bridge End, which is blasphemy. But, and he sort of said, I know people at Bridge End quite well. So he said, if anything ever happens there, they're after a new manager, because Francis Ford had been there 10 years. He said, I'll put a word in for you. So I said, okay, no problem. I just didn't think much else of it. And when I say they should have been doing better, I just mean maybe more ambitious. I'm not criticising Francis in any way, but almost like a sleeping giant as a town. And then it was only like a month or so later, he rings me up and says, Francis Ford's gone. And I was like, oh, okay. And he said, I've told him that there's only one person they should interview, and that's you. So they interviewed me, and I think they interviewed me on the Monday, and I think by the weekend it was all done. So I got Jonas to thank for that, which he had to do something for me, because he didn't do much for me as a manager. That's a joke. No, but yeah, so I went there, and it's been a perfect fit. I got a deep affection for Llanelli. I have for Port Talbot, and I hope that my comments don't distinguish that at all. But Penybont now is just on another level for me.
With that in mind, you mentioned Llanelli holds a special place in your heart and everything. I was speaking to a friend of mine who we were talking about, Welsh Premier League players, if they got onto management and anything like that. And your name came up, and of course, it was just a what if scenario and everything. And he said, which club would you reckon that he would go to after Penybont? And I said, well, I would love to see him at Llanelli Town as a manager, because I think he would bring in a lot of greatness to the club. But for you, just asking you yourself now, say, for argument's sake, touch wood anyway, sounds a bit controversial because you're still Penybont manager, but if you had the opportunity to go and manage Llanelli, would you take it in a single heartbeat, or would you just say, nah, no thanks, I'll go and look for something else to do?
I wouldn't take it in a heartbeat, because it has to be right.
Yeah.
It has to be right there, and Llanelli's had its problems, not too dissimilar to themselves and Port Talbot, and so it'd have to be right. But obviously, I've got an affection for the club, and it would be, in terms of my heart would want to say yes if I wasn't at Penybont, but I love Penybont now. And,
yes.
I won't be leaving Penybont in the foreseeable. Hopefully they haven't got other ideas. But like you say, if for some reason I had to leave Penybont, and then Llanelli would always be a club I'd want to listen to if I was available. But it has to be right. And at the moment they've just not quite found the formula to do what you guys have done at Bury, where you're back where you belong, I guess.
With Penybont now, when your first season in the Welsh Premier League after getting promotion and everything, it must have been a struggle because you have fighting off relegation battles and everything. But for you, was it a big opportunity to go, right, Sweatpants, let's get to work, let's do this, and going hard? But what was it like for you for that season? Well, this season's just gone. How would you sum it up?
When you got promoted, we came second by 5 points, and we had a terrible start. And then all season we clawed you back. And even with 2 games to go, I thought we could still win this. And I thought that we were ready, and that I was ready for Welsh Prem at that point, but we weren't. And it was a blessing in disguise that you didn't fold under the pressure, and you beat Goitre, I think, and won the league. And because I wasn't ready either, really, and I think we would have got relegated for sure if we'd gone up that year. But we built something, and when you're able to start at the league below and build like Leeds now. Leeds, I don't think Leeds will struggle at all next year because they've built something from within, and now they'll just continue that on at a higher level. Whereas if you're starting from scratch, it's already at the top league where you can't afford to experiment, you can't afford to make mistakes. It's a lot harder to implement your ideas. I hope that makes sense. But it's been hard. It has been hard. We've, more than anything, because we've lost so many games we shouldn't have. The first game of the season, 3-2 3 times in the 90th minute. And some of the goals as well that we conceded, like at Carnarvon away, it was a free kick, hit the crossbar, hits our keeper, falls to their player and taps it in. It's a great free kick, but just felt like everything's going against you a little bit. And I don't believe in luck. But in those moments, you're thinking, any chance? But we didn't flinch. It was something me and Martin Giles, who's an absolute godsend for me. It was something we talk about quite a lot. We didn't flinch at all. Yeah, it was tough, but we didn't back down. We kept going. We kept our standards high, remained professional, believed in our methods, and we turned the corner big time. From around Christmas, Boxing Day onwards, we turned the corner massively. And I think personally that again, I'm going to upset a few people, but I think we were the best team in the bottom half. We would have gone on to be the best team in the bottom half for the second half of the season.
With the you were saying a lot of goals were not going your way and everything. How did you feel about Johnny Hurd's goal against Penybont in the opening season?
It's more a celebration than anything. I just can't get my head around that dance that we did. And Scorio just seemed to love putting clips of that goal up and that celebration. But no, look, I have to take responsibility for that because I got it into my head that I had to do a certain thing at set pieces. And don't get me wrong, Barry are good in all the aspects of the game, but they're not like a beast at set pieces like perhaps Collins Key are. For some reason, I decided I wanted to do something at set pieces, which meant we were a man down on the edge of the box. And it came from a short corner. It wasn't a planned thing, but it fell to the edge there where didn't have a man because I'd pushed that man somewhere else. So it was my fault that goal went in. It was a good strike. Our keeper was unsighted and it goes. And he's a scorer of great goals. He's not a really great goal scorer as such, but he scores great goals. So he's a complete opposite to me, to be honest. Or I was.
I'm surprised we haven't mentioned it because I know we mentioned UEFA Cup and Europa League and everything. We haven't mentioned Motherwell yet. To go that game against Motherwell in Scotland. Man, I should slap myself on the wrist for that. But when you played against Motherwell in the Europa League or UEFA Cup or whatever people want to call it, was it a bit of a shock that what was it, the first leg that you beat them 1-0 and then you came back and it was 3-1? But what was it like in the first leg when you went up to Scotland and played against them?
It was a great experience. It was, again, this is what I mean about Merthyr. You know, they can experience these things if they come and do it properly. But it wasn't a surprise to me. Stuart Jones scored yet another goal in Europe. He's obviously finished now, but any Welsh Premier manager worth their salt knows if you play a team with Stuart Jones in it, you're going to have to be careful on set pieces because he's got a trampoline in his boots. Probably the best leap of anyone I've ever played with. And he scored quite a few goals in European competition, and he always ribs me because I never scored in the Champions League and he did. Although I captained in the Champions League and he didn't, so that was my comeback. But no, it didn't surprise me, and it didn't surprise me they took us a bit lightly. I think Bruce Rioch was a manager, and they took us too lightly. And it's a very thin line between Welsh Prem and, you know, professional levels. And you look at Christian Deutsch now, obviously close to your heart, I expect. He's doing great now, having come from the Welsh Prem at the same level Motherwell are playing at. You know, that day we battered them all over the pitch. Yeah, they had the ball more than we did, but in terms of the contact, I didn't lose a header. Stuart Jones didn't lose a header. Chris Venables, it was his debut, and he actually had a little niggle. I can't remember what it was, but he had a quad strain or something. He was unbelievable. Imagine if he was fit. So we deserved 100% to win that game. But then the flip side is when they come back to our place, they know now, you know, what they're going to be up against, and then that little bit of quality comes through. And I think we lost 2 or 3-0 at home.
Just a last question then for you, and it was an absolute pleasure to be speaking to you about your career and some things about football. It's absolutely fun to be doing this with you. How would you describe your career as a footballer?
I wish you told me you were going to ask me that. I would have given it some thought. That's a tough question, a good question. I just gave it everything. I think I made the most of it. I was never coached. My career was about self-discovery. I had some decent managers, and I picked up bits off everybody, I suppose, but I wasn't ever like coached as such. And I learned my trade, and I just worked hard, and I had 100% confidence. So I suppose to answer your question, I would just say I made the most of my opportunities.
Well, Rhys, thank you so much for coming on the Dragon's Voice podcast to talk about your career and other things to do with football. It's an absolute pleasure, and it's an absolute pleasure that you get to share the same name with me. So, but thank you very much. And I also wish you all the best with Penybont. I look forward to, hopefully, if the COVID situation dies down, hopefully I get to see you against your team against Barry one day, hopefully again. So I wish you all the very best. Fingers crossed. All right, guys, thank you so much for tuning into the Dragon's Voice podcast. It has been one heck of a journey so far, and I can't thank you guys enough for the support. So please give the like, share, subscribe, and hopefully one day when the COVID's over, I can go back and doing the audio so you don't get to see my ugly face. So, but anyway, guys, thank you so much for tuning in, and I'll see you all next time. Take care.